Say, Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the blessings you've given to us. Please protect us. Please guide us as we go on our adventure. Please help us to have good, competent minds and good, clear words. Help us as we go through our day. In Christ Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Man.
Hello, my name is Alex. Welcome to another Sword podcast. Would you mind introducing yourself?
And I am Joel. I go by Professor Fencer on TikTok and on YouTube.
I'm Alex, and I run the Central Missouri Fighters Guild, and I run by Essays on the English Longsword on YouTube. It's been a while since we had a podcast. It's been a while.
Yes, it really has, and I've been so excited to come back to do a podcast because I have I took a bit of a break from HEMA over the winter, and now things are getting warmer again, and I feel like I have this new perspective on HEMA now. And I spent basically all summer maintaining my conditioning and things like that. So I'm starting out like the new season really strong. And I've just been inspired to make more HEMA content lately too.
Dude, I love that. I love that for you. I was really thankful. So both the clubs I go to are really thankful to have indoor spaces now. And so
That's neat.
it's huge. It's amazing, and I was able to just keep on doing a continued run through, like no break of training.
So you were training all winter
I
indoors.
Yes, that is one way to say it. I do want to say a lot of my personal training has probably taken a backseat in the past 6 or 7 months, just because like I've been working so hard on coaching some other guys. Um, I don't feel like I definitely not I've definitely not like regressed, but I don't think I've progressed any much, just because I've been working at the same level.
I think I hear you. Like it's different. Like your coaching experience and your actual like personal training experience are like different experience paths.
They really are, and it's like I think it one of the things it's helping me with is helping me to fight against newer people, both in knowing what bullcrap they choose to do, and I'm not surprised by it, but also being like, I don't need to win every fight. I want to make this a learning experience for everyone, and that's a very interesting thing for me to get used to.
Right. So like, because I've been training a lot of new people too, so I just wanted to ask because I'm curious. Like, what are some of the common things you see new people doing, like when they first start HEMA? Like some common errors that you see across multiple people.
For me, it's one of the things that frustrates me the most, and this is also a test of my patience. Uh, is I kind of get frustrated when I don't see them have like I want to say tone to it, but it's not quite the right word. There's not a finesse to what they're doing. Like I show them an action, doing one of the first plays, first chases, and I do the action, and then they do it, but like it's just like not sophisticated. It's not finessed, and that's something I'm trying to work on myself with. Is like, it's practice makes perfect, and I see a lot of these people just don't have the finesse and the muscle tone to quite really do something correctly. And probably the best example is going to be just the simple, just downward strike, thrust forward, the most simplest like technique you'd ever do in HEMA. And it's like it's just an interesting thing of like they just move it wrong, move it forward, lean forward as they're doing it, and it's just a lot of these little things just add up over time.
Yeah, like they're not conditioned, they're not fluid with the movement. They're still like mentally walking themselves through the movement. I definitely know what you're talking about, and it can be something that like could be so trivial to an experienced person, like with the downward cut and thrust. Like I forget that even something like that was like challenging to learn. Like the first time you do anything in HEMA, it's always going to be very hard, even if it's like uh, just facing somebody like new. Like that's still like a challenge in itself, or someone you've never fenced before. Don't really know what to expect.
I love
For
fighting new
me,
people.
yeah, same. I loved teaching HEMA to new people. I love fencing with new people, but like at the same like on that same note, when it comes to fencing other people, I really like the discussions that like before and after first spar our fencing match to kind of like get to know that person because they've had their own like individual like training experience, their own interpretations, their own everything. So it's like two Pats like coming together, and
I think
feel like
underrated.
you're never the same. Like when you fence somebody new, you're gonna take in so much new information that you never walk out of it like the same fencer really.
I agree. I think like the post fight breakdown, the post sparring breakdown is an underrated part of HEMA. That a lot of people just like either don't do or don't really think about. It's because it's what you feel in the fight and what actually happened in the fight are two different things. And talking with both participants of the fight of the sparring helps you kind of figure out what actually happened. Because sometimes you can think of like I feel like I was fighting too close. Oh, that's because I was practicing, getting, fighting at the close, getting in the bind. Or sometimes people are trying to work on a specific technique, and it's really fascinating just to see everyone's perspective on what happened in the same sparring match, because it's always different, even if you are fighting against the same guy. I always
Yeah,
think back.
and
I always think back to one of the things that really like that I thought of was doing like one of the barbecues like 2 or 3 years ago, in Jefferson City. That it was like there was just some discussions that had there that still I still think about today whenever I'm in a fight after fighting some high level people.
yeah, and then the other thing too is I don't feel like I as far as like to wrap both topics together, like fencing new people and then like fencing like literal new people to the hobby, is that like new people don't ask for feedback or they don't give feedback
That's
a
a good
lot of the
point.
times. And I don't think it's like because they don't want to. I think it's because they don't really know. Maybe they don't know like what things to be asking for because like my thing nowadays when I go to train is I'm like really intentional, so I set my goals. One of the things I've been working on recently is being more offensive when I fence, like doing more assaults instead of I tend to back up a lot and I like to be very like counter reactive or like reactive. But it doesn't that doesn't come out of a place of like me being scared or anything, but it comes out of a place of like confidence. Like I feel very confident in the onset of a fencing match. Sometimes I think, yeah, whatever they do, I'll just like block it and I'll know what to do. But like that is a flawed way of thinking. Like when you really start like fencing with experienced people, and in the manuals they always say that you should kind of always try to be on top of things. Like, yeah, there's plays where you like counter react and things like that, but those are really just like those secondary movements. Like you kind of want to get that control when you're fencing.
I
And so
think that
I
kind of
always try
goes
to
to the
put
discussion
yeah
of like I think that goes into discussion initiative, which does really link into newer people as well. One of the ways I've always understood what you're talking about of like the action versus reaction of the initiative of like even if you are able to block or to ward whatever strike they're doing, they are still the ones dictating the fight. And once they realize that, they can use that to really put you in a bad position. And a lot of newer folks to the hobby don't really understand the whole thing of like action reaction of initiative. I think the most dangerous thing a as experienced person can do find a new person is to expect them to know what they're doing. A newer person will always surprise you, always throw out this one wild strike, and a lot of times you'll get hit by that strike because you expect them to do something competent, and they weren't. And the best way to fight against that is to control the initiative. Of even if they're not going to block what you're actually going to do, of get them to try to do some reaction that allows you to have an opening. And I feel like yeah, initiative is very important fighting against newer folks.
yeah I agree. And that's one of the main things I try to encourage my trainees to do is that like you should be fencing with more confidence. You should be fencing with this idea that I'm going to seize the vor, like I'm going to take control of this person. I'm going to control the movement. Uh, because that initial move, also that leap, is what brings you out of like this it's like overthinking when you're fencing, which is another problem that a lot of new people have, is that they're too analytical. Like they're focused on what the other person's doing, and they're focused on
We
how
have
their
that
body is
problem.
moving.
We have that
Yeah,
problem in our club. Of a couple folks really being overthinking about it and just stopping themselves halfway in a strike just because they're not confident.
yeah, yeah. Like they expect themselves to be to be blocked, which is not a bad thing. But then you need to follow up with that subsequent, movement. Like you have to know that, hey, I'm doing something that's going to get blocked, so that I can then get this advantage over here. And then like another thing, I feel like a mistake experienced fencers make when they're fencing new people is that experienced fencers crush new fencers. Like they um they don't make it into a learning experience for the new person. They're so good that like they just point, over and over and over again. Which I don't know about how you feel about this, but for me, like the sparring matches where I just lose back to back to back
It feels
with
so
no
bad.
context as to why, it's not helpful.
You just get
That
frustrated.
yeah
You get kind of like heated up about it. And even if you don't like start hating your opponent or stuff like that, you just kind of like you start getting this like imposter syndrome, right? Of like I can't do this. What am I even doing here? It gets rough.
yeah, and then um like for me, I like to spar people that, like, if I'm trying to challenge myself and I'm trying to grow, I like to spar people who are like maybe just a little bit more skilled than I am, or like they have that, they've got me, they're like higher skilled, but like at a certain threshold, so that like I am being challenged, but yet I'm still able to express like my style, so that I can see those errors, because some people are just so good. It's like doesn't matter what you do, you're pointed. Like it's not fun. It's not helpful. And then like the experienced person, you try to ask them for feedback, and they're just like they don't really give you great feedback, or like they don't give you any at all.
I
And
was
I
kind of
think
talking about
like
this actually.
yeah,
I was at a Spirit Cinema a couple weeks ago, and the discussion kind of went like this of being like for some reason like there is kind of like a way of like a lot of like higher level people. Sometimes it feels kind of awkward or kind of like you don't really deserve to talk to them. And it's a weird mindset at tournaments sometimes that gets into of like these high level people that when you spar against them, and when you fight against them or talk to them, it feels like kind of like an insurmountable wall to also like ask for advice.
yeah, people can be awkward at tournaments. That's the other thing too. Another thing, like when I reflect on HEMA so far, and it's like tournaments are not social. Like I
I hate
don't,
it. I hate it.
I yeah, I there's a lot of people that like they're unapproachable, or they seem like they're not really there for the social aspects. Like they're there play for the competition. And you're right, they're like, they don't really want to like engage or interact with people, which is a shame.
It is, and for the
Because
most part,
I am, yeah,
no, I say for the most part, like I'm a pretty sociable guy. I usually don't give a crap. I just talk to people and like have fun with that. It's just I also feel like when you get in that situation of when there's so many tournaments, uh, if there's people that all people that are closed off, there is that of like who are there just for the competition, just for that, and it's also how a lot of tournaments are structured. That unless it's at the beginning or end of the tournament, there's not really that big social environment. That's it's hard to just like to actually learn from others. You can learn from your own experience at a tournament, from doing the sparring, having your corner coach and stuff like that. But to actually have like a meaningful like discussion about what happened is tough to do.
yeah, and like, I mean, I that's why I like barbecues more because the tension is just much lower. Um, some people really go hard for HEMA, like,
I love
uh,
barbecues. I love them. It's my
yeah,
favorite.
and there is a difference when you're sparring somebody who's like a friend who is just having like a friendly thing going on, and then like a difference between if someone's like trying to learn something, and a difference between someone who's just trying to beat you. Uh,
And
and
sorry,
yeah,
go ahead, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was just gonna say like those are different dynamics, and I think they do like affect the social atmosphere of your fencing club too, because like if everyone's there and they're hyper competitive, you know, there's going to be some walls between people. Whereas like there's some groups that like everyone is clearly friends and they're friendly with each other, and there's others that are like very just like competitive structured, and you know people are just
Your worth
really
is your
working
rating.
against each other. Yeah.
Your worth is your rating. I am really blessed to say I haven't really visited St. Louis HEMA, but I'm really blessed for my club that we all kind of like that friendship group, right? A lot of us are friends in real life. A lot of us, hang out and do stuff at the events, and it's like it's a great thing because I feel like the HEMA, like the community part of HEMA, is probably my favorite aspect, and I feel like kind of to wrap it all around, whenever a new person joins our club, right, and the scene HEMA for this time with how to use a sword, how to do that, the actual culture of it is one of the things I want to get right, and I feel like that's a huge blessing that we're able to do that.
Yeah, I love how clubs have their like own identities and things like that. And I mean, and it's comprised of the people too. Like the people contribute to that a lot too. And there's different attitudes. I love watching like just people upload their like sparring videos and their on their club like YouTube channel and stuff like that. I really do love seeing that. And yeah, you're right. HEMA offers like a lot of community, and it's very inclusive. Like that was one of the first big impressions I had when I heard it was like this is a really fun, like inclusive group, and like people are friendly for the most part.
I have
But then
like
like
this.
tournaments, but
Okay.
then like on the flip side, HEMA can be very toxic and like competitive and not inclusive. Uh, Depending on like what echelon of like community you go to, like there's toxic HEMA discords, toxic HEMA Facebooks, and they're always built around the tournament
I got a
side of
couple buddies
HEMA
who got
too.
doxxed for like the stupidest things. No, I agree. I agree. It can definitely get into a toxic format, and I feel like a part of that is going to be an intentionality of those in because for the most part, like if you want that part of the community, you're going to eventually find it, right? And the right people are kind of get funneled into those community spaces, those nice, places where you can free to talk, do stuff. And even if you are completely opposite sides of a whole lot of different issues, you can still talk about swords and have fun. And that's what I love about that is it allows you to talk about swords regardless of whatever issues are around.
Yeah, like a healthy like a lot of HEMA communities have like pretty strict like social boundaries too, like which helps that a lot. Like people can just be there for like a fun time, and you know they don't have to worry about like hopping on a sensitive topic. Although pretty sure there are some really toxic experiences people have had in HEMA before. Um, but I wanted to also bring up some things we were talking about today. Um, I'm just going through here.
Honestly, I think we
Was
got off
there?
topic. I think we got off topic. I kind of completely because we were talking about new folks, we were talking about the club, and we got
No, you're good. Those are things I wanted to talk about also. We're gonna talk about like new HEMA equipment. So like what some recommended HEMA equipment. I know you just
one of
got
the
some
biggest.
new
Yeah,
HEMA kit, and I did so.
One of the biggest issues that we've had for our club is, I mean, money is, at the end of all things, it's it's money you have to get. It's getting people equipment has been one of the biggest issues, and like I've personally financed a lot of the club just out of like basically my sword money, and that's one of the biggest thing is getting people new gear, whether new masks, gloves, gambesons, swords. It's probably one of the biggest hurdles for a club, because as a new person, sometimes like unless your club is really good at it, you don't know what to buy. We've had issues of people buying stuff from like Amazon, having like a 6 pound rapier trying to join us, or people someone buying
Yeah.
having a literal crowbar of a longsword, and I'm like, I respect it. I'm never going to
Wait,
police.
can you say that again? Someone had a crowbar for a longsword?
It was longsword shape. It was a longsword shape,
Oh,
but it hit like a
but
crowbar.
okay, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah,
So like a wall hanger.
it was wall. It was definitely a wall hanger. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like,
I've seen some. I've seen some really like goofy kit things people bring to do HEMA with.
oh gosh, and I'm just like, oh, this plastic. The big like the it's the hard plastic longsword. It's the cold steel ones of like they're like like inch and a
Yeah, the
half
black
thick.
one. Yeah,
Dude, though
that black longsword.
I wouldn't spar at all with those. Holy crap, those are tough.
Yeah, but I will say those are really good for harness fighting.
That was actually a discussion I was having with a couple Lean Sergeant guys. Like it's great in that context. It's tough. It's durable. You buy like what? It's like what, $40, I think.
Yeah, it's a good, and I mean it's a good half sorting trainer. Like it, I like that. That sword has its, and that's the thing too. Like you can use, you can use anything for like a specific purpose. Not every sword has to be like a sparring sword. Like I don't really spar with my red dragons, but I like using them like indoors. I prefer to use those like if I'm practicing something specific where like I feel like the working with the fader would not help me.
The red
Like
dragons are great for loners. I have two of
yeah,
those, and another one has someone else. Those are great just to give to someone. Do a couple longsword drills out of armor, just by yourself. It's great for that.
yeah, and yeah. Um, but yeah, I hear you. Like HEMA equipment, you don't know what to buy. So like, do you decide? Okay, this is a longsword club. So like this club is going to be
Uh,
focused around longsword,
that's
or this
another
club is
discussion.
going to be focused around saber. Like, do you make those decisions? Like, okay, this is like for me, like my HEMA, like I do medieval weapons. Like I am a medieval period HEMA fencer. Like I don't care much for saber. I don't care much for rapier. I like to do spears, pole hammers, long swords, arming swords, messers. Like
Knightly combat.
I mean, I'll spar people that like use saber, like if they're cool with it. But like I'm not I'm gonna put my focus on like learning the medieval weapons because that's what interests me. So like when you make a club, do you decide that too? Like, okay, we're gonna be like centered around a specific time period, or we're gonna be centered around like a specific sword or a specific martial art. Not to like exclude anybody, but like
I think it's
if
important to
somebody
do that.
walked in
I
with
think it's
no
important.
HEMA experience, they're gonna learn this. Like we'll teach you this, and this is what we're gonna focus our club around. But if you want to branch out on your own, then like by all means.
I think there's two important things to say about that. First off, 90% of cases, the sword determines the equipment, right? The level of glove you have, how much padding you have. The sword generally determines that. And there's also the thing of
Yeah.
like, you never want to force anyone to do something they don't want to, but also as a coach, as an instructor, you don't want to be forced to teach something you don't like. Fun fact: I
Yeah.
actually am not the biggest fan of the longsword. Um,
Really? You don't like longsword?
I don't dislike it. It's a
Okay.
good sword. I like it. It's the first thing it's the first thing I started in. There's a lot of really good valuable things to learn from it, but it's not my favorite sword. I would much rather do like basket hilt or like pole arm. I do it though. I do it, and I mostly teach longsword because it's one of the basic things in HEMA, and because if you get the gear for longsword, you can do pretty much anything else. And that's kind of what I would talk about. Is like
Yeah.
you don't want to force either the coach or the learner to be forced into a weapon, but also if you're getting gear for a club, you kind of have to pick which sword you're mostly focusing on to match it, because you don't want to be using like lacrosse gloves for longsword. That's a freaking terrible idea.
It is a terrible idea. I have a trainee who still uses lacrosse. Well, he's not. I mean, he's. I mean, he's grown a lot. Like honestly, there's times where he's top to me, so I don't care. I don't say he's necessarily a trainee anymore, but yeah, he uses lacrosse gloves for longsword, and when we spar, it makes me so nervous. The
I
other thing
I'm in a
too,
position. But
boundaries with like equipment. Uh,
I
I
think
don't
that's kind of what we
like.
need to talk about right
Yeah,
now, because we kind of have like the like what equipment should you be using for a club. I think the boundaries
yeah,
is important because like I'm in a space right now, since I'm like the leader of like this thing. I have the say of like I don't want you all doing this. It's a weird position, but like I'm lucky to be able to say like no, please do not do that. Um,
yeah,
but like there needs to be boundaries by leadership, whether actual leadership or just experienced people in the club. They need to have boundaries for safety.
yeah. Personal boundaries and boundaries across the entire. Definitely. Like for me, I like I said, I've had people come in and their equipment is not good, and I won't spar with. Simply because like I don't want to hurt you. If someone else feels comfortable, then by all means. Huh. But like I don't feel comfortable um, sparring. So we could talk about like what equipment would be like your standard. Like we could name a weapon like what do you say? Like longsword,
Let's start with
like club
longsword,
standards.
because like longsword is like the basic HEMA sword,
Huh.
for better
All
or
right.
for worse.
Well, okay. What what type of swords are acceptable and which ones are not acceptable for longsword?
I think pretty much like most feathers you can find on the market, like roughly between like 250 to like $400. Like roughly is kind of like that kind of range. Like pretty much any feather like is pretty good, pretty darn good. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of a lot of like actual sword looking swords. I like a lot of like the blended trainers. They just
Yeah,
they just cause a lot of issues. They're more trouble than they're worth. And for the most part,
and they're not made for sparring, really.
no. I
I mean,
like
they're trainers. Like you can use them for your form, but like look at that black cold steel longsword. You could use that like to train with, but like sparring is very dangerous with it.
I because see, I like your arming sword that you have. That it was the Albion one. Which one was that one?
Uh,
No, it was the arming
so
sword.
I apologize. You're talking about my arming sword.
Yeah,
So my arming sword. Which one are you talking like?
it's you got it. I think you bought it. You bought it at. I think I was there when you bought it. I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
And then
no. So that my arming sword is a it was a hand me down from our like club guy.
okay,
And it's a Hanwei Tinker longsword. And I actually don't recommend that sword for sparring because the blade is very thin.
and that was the
Um,
that was gonna be the other way. I was gonna say because I didn't mind
yeah,
sparring against it. I didn't, but I was worried about that sharp edge. That.
yeah, it's thin. It's a great trainer, right? Like I
Mhm.
was using it to for arming sword like training. I don't really spar with it. We have better arming swords that are more sparring appropriate, but like I can still use that sword to train with it, but I don't feel comfortable sparring people with it. Mainly because I don't want it to break. Like I feel lucky that it hasn't broken already. Um
I
but I will say I really only want to spar with and against name brand faders. Like because they make faders that are wall hangers, like really cheap, not sparring quality are not
I've
from a
seen some stuff
reputable
on
brand.
Amazon. I've seen some anime on
Yeah,
Amazon.
yeah, and I mean, I tell people this all the time when they first are getting equipment. I'm like, when you buy your equipment, you have to buy something that you trust with your life. Basically, you have to when you put that gear on, you have to be fully confident that it's going to do its job because fingers have been broken. Now, thankfully, I've never been seriously injured, but like for example, I took a groin hit the other week, and if thankfully I was wearing a cup, right? Which another thing that scares me a lot in HEMA is that a lot of people who like casually train, they're not wearing like cups. They're not wearing.
No, it's the one. It's the first thing that
Yeah,
goes when someone's training. Of like just not wearing it.
yeah, but like I took a bad hit to the groin. Now, thankfully, I was wearing my cup, so I didn't get hurt or injured. But like, if I wasn't, it could have been awful. And I've seen some bad injuries, like even with something like people doing longsword and their masks don't have hoods. Uh, like
Someone's
the back of
mask.
their head is fully exposed.
Yeah, but so we've what's one of the issues we've had because we have a left-hand fencer fighting with us, and he has a bad issue of like exposing his back. And since I'm right-handed, he turns hit like clockwise. Keeps exposing the
Yeah,
back of his head and the back of his spine to me, and because it's me, I can slow it down and not hit him. It's just like, yeah, that's a huge thing of like not having that kind of gear is rough. Not like back of the head protection is required in a lot of cases.
and even on that, good quality back of the head protection. Like they make some really good equipment nowadays, like the Wakusi Cobra, with like the hard shell, like back of the head protection stuff like that is even more important because some people they just wear like a really thin like leather cap as their hood, and I'm just like that is not. Don't get me wrong, it'll protect you, but like still too weak for my own comfort. Like I just got a new. So and another thing is your equipment has to fit. Like I my my old fencing mask was too big for my head, and I would take blows to the head, and it would I would have a headache for like all week after that because my mask doesn't fit properly. So I bought a new one, and that fits me much better, and I can tell the difference like night and day as far as like protection goes. Uh,
That's super important is to get that
yeah,
proper size gear. And like again, that's one of the issues for like trying to stock a club is we have a club of like multiple different size members. You know, from like a size extra small to like behemoth of a man. Um,
yeah.
it's yeah, getting the right proper gear is important to safety because if it's too small, it's going to cause issues of either impact hitting too hard or having your hand actually like strained, or if it's too big, it's
Yeah.
just not going to do its job.
Also, okay, so on loaner gear too, I want to ask you, what do you believe is the function for loaner gear? Because I feel like some people they they will just continue using loaner gear and they won't go out to get their own gear, and I heavily encourage that people buy their own kit.
I
Like
think the
if,
purpose of
as you
loaner
continue to
gear
keep doing it.
the purpose of loaner gear is going to be an entrance to the hobby, right? It gets you to experience what either both the brands of different equipment, like the different ways of doing things for the same piece of equipment, and also gets you actually to feel the hobby. Some people like when they actually do get into HEMA and do proper steel fighting and armor, it doesn't feel right to them. They enjoy doing something slower or just training, and that's totally fine. It's a way to facilitate you of knowing what you should get. I like this brand, like I like the
Yeah.
Spez Heavies over like whatever this one is. I like these better over these, or vice versa. It can help you pick what you want because the worst thing you can do is buying some equipment and having to use it for 3 years, even though you hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. So like loaner gear is like really to just demo HEMA to new people.
I
Like
like that
if
demo.
people want to like get that firsthand, like if I'm a new person and I want that firsthand experience and I don't have anything, I'm just like a medium-sized person, like, okay, yeah, we can put you in our loaner kit and you can try like sparring, see if you like it, or you can, if you want to test out like certain things, or hey, I'm trying to look for like what to get, and I want to have that like experience before I buy it. Loaner gear is great, but I think a lot, like I said earlier, a lot of people they've been doing HEMA for years and they use loaner gear. And like I'm not saying that's wrong because I mean people have their own situations, but like for example, I don't want to wear like a mask that 10 people have worn and
Sweated in, and
yeah,
you all in the heat. You're in the summer. Uh,
yeah.
no, I agree with
I
that.
want stuff that's mild.
It feels more personal, and like the drip of HEMA is an important topic. Like how good you look. I love when people like change cosmetically their gear. And like
Yeah, as
it's a
long as it's like
there's
a
this
safe modification.
the safe ways to do it, but it's more like the thing of like the fact that it's your own and you can use it like as such. It just makes it feel so much more different when you're fighting.
Yeah, exactly. You know, a piece of equipment that I think is overlooked a lot. I think sheaths are overlooked in HEMA.
Sheaths.
I sheaths, like I find it strange that people don't sheath their swords.
It is.
Uh, because like I train outside, so like when you're steel is like exposed to the elements. There's like risk for rusting and other things like that. And I bought a sheath for my longsword, and whenever I'm not using it, it's almost always sheathed. And I will say the actual maintenance I have to do on it, like routinely, has dramatically decreased ever since I started sheathing like my sword. Like it does go a long way,
That is
and it's a
fascinating.
simple thing to do. Yeah, it's a simple thing to get, simple thing to acquire. I just find it weird that like people just like throw their swords and then nice swords too, like Siggy swords and all this other stuff. They throw their nice swords in this like box, and then they just let it get rusty and banged up,
A lot
and
of
it's
people
like you
like leave it in
paid
the
good money for
cars.
this. Yeah, or keeping it in your car, like, and you paid good money for this stuff, and it's like you're not taking good care of it.
I I don't think I'll ever use a sheath for the most part. I don't think it's a bad thing. I really don't. It's just the amount of swords I carry now, having a sword for each of them, and it's not feasible in a lot of circumstances. I do think that like the kind of like having that as part of the culture of also like showing off the sheath. I'm not sure how you would like get that widespread because it is like it's nothing that it besides storage,
Yeah,
it is going to be a hassle. Just like
yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting to change the world with that, but it was just like an observation, and I do recommend that like people sheath their swords. Like personally, I mean, sheath is only like 15 to 30 bucks. It's like if you're gonna buy a new sword, I mean, if it's an investment, you could just add a sheath to it to that investment. But like, I mean, obviously it's optional, but I think it is helpful to get. Alright, so we're talking about long swords. So how do you? I feel like clamshells
so yeah,
are
what do you I guess we're talking like what
uh,
is your like the order of getting gear for a long sword?
the order of getting here.
Like what's the
Yeah.
most important
Um.
first and then
Yeah. So before I get to that, I just wanted to say, longsword. And then we can come back to this after I answer that other question. I feel like clamshells are like the only gauntlets you should be using for longsword. But to answer your question about what order you should buy, I think the first two things you should buy are a mask and gloves.
I agree. I agree. And I also agree that clamshells are the only choice for Fahima. I've
Yeah,
seen way too much crap for like
the
for finger
finger
gloves.
gauntlets are just they're not great. Um,
They're
Even
gimmicky
in
and they're
harness
dangerous.
fighting, like some of the steel gauntlets they offer for harness fighting it's like it's a paper tiger. Like it doesn't really protect you. It just looks like it does.
Um there's so many things can go wrong, especially because like a two-handed sword is a huge lever. It's a massive lever, and it hits a lot harder than a lot of people would like assume. Uh, it's I think clamshells are the only choice for that. And that even goes for like the new ones coming out. Have you seen the Nillans at all?
No.
They're a fancy like little one that's coming out, and they have like three versions. One is like a two hoof version of like your thumb and index and middle finger on one side, and like everything else is on the other side. And it's like a weird pig hoof thing of like it looks really impressive, but like it's gosh, it's a thing of like how much freedom of movement do you want versus protection, and that's always the balance with equipment. And like fingered gloves just don't have enough protection for how much mobility they give you.
Yeah, and I have version 3 Spez Heavy Lobster gloves, and I never have an issue like with the mobility of the gloves. Like I can do basically all my cuts with those gloves on with like very little modification. Like it's not an issue for me. Like I've got the finger manipulation through the mitt and stuff like that.
I think the issue I have with the Spez Heavies, I think I have the version twos. I think is I got them too big, and then it just makes it a bit harder for me, just because they're not tight enough.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're not properly fit. I know what you mean.
But I switched to like a different pair now. I have no idea who made them.
Yeah. But I say mask and gloves should be the first things you buy because like that means you can do like drilling with a steel sword with like very light contact. Like obviously no bodies or whatever, but you can practice your hand snipes and you can practice like, you know, cuts to the head with a training partner. Like you're not sparring ready
And even
yet, but like
like
if you have foam loaners or whatever, then like yeah, you could spar with foams with just a mask and gloves.
I am a huge fan of uh foam training. But yeah, I'll talk to that
You know
about in a
what?
second.
I am too. As an experienced longsword fencer, I actually love foams because
It's
they
so
allow you
freeing.
to like once again, like every sword, like you know, I can focus on different things. I can focus on like my actual technique without having to worry about manipulating the weight of the blade. You know, like I can, and then I can spar with less gear, so like I don't feel as like claustrophobic in my equipment. Um,
Let's put a pin in
yeah.
this. We'll put a pin in this because I think foams are an incredible thing to talk about. Um, but like the reason we have like masks and gloves at the first part is you can do so much crap with it, so many things with it, and it's also like a mask. You can get a decent mask between like a $90 to $100, right? Uh,
Yeah, if you just want like the basic like absolute force mask.
it's a good mask for like how affordable and like easy to get it is because Purple
Yeah.
Heart almost always has it in stock.
Yeah, although I will say if you can get a hold of a Lucusi mask, that the Lucusis are worth the money, I will have to say.
I feel like the thing with
You can
equipment is when you're starting out, your goal is to get equipment, right? It's to get things that would work with you, that gets you into the hobby, and then as you start working into the hobby, getting stuff, you start finding what you like and don't like, and then you can start like kind of optimizing your gear. Because that's what I did. I bought a lot of stock standard stuff when I first started, getting things, and over time I was slowly replacing them. I switched out my gorget with to like a small roughneck one. I switched my gloves out. I switched my gambeson out now. I just kind of like fine tuned what I like over the past like four
yeah.
years.
Yeah. Same. Well, when I was getting into this, there wasn't there wasn't much HEMA equipment available. Like a lot of it was out of stock. So like when I first was getting into this, I was resorting to like reenactment gambesons and things like that, which I don't recommend.
Yours was
I see
thin.
that
I'm
a lot
sorry.
of
Yours was
people
so
doing
thin
that.
when we first met. I was scared.
Yeah, I don't recommend people do that. There was this like aesthetic in our club that like a lot of people in our club would wear those like reenactment gambesons and things like that, but I just can't recommend it. Um, but that's what I had back. That was what was available back in the day. But now we live in an age where like HEMA equipment is relatively easy to get and it's much better. Uh, I always tell people to get Spez. Like Spez is just a brand with a really good reputation and their equipment is solid. Um, and I do think with Spez items you get what you pay for.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Uh,
I agree with
yeah.
that. I mean, I'm so one of the issues we've had in our club, the past like 6 months, I want to say, is that people have been trying to order custom gambesons from Subfin, and either being canceled outright or just having no word for so long, and the piece not even being started yet. I'm not saying like Spez is perfect either, but yeah, like working and getting like
Sites? Yeah, those sites like Subfen and like Showcat and stuff like that. I just don't. Those brands just always feel shady to me. Uh, and it's a bit of a hassle to actually place orders and stuff on those sites.
I think Purple Heart Armory is like one of the most solid like HEMA websites to buy gear. It's always consistent. I've never had an issue with them. They can help you get gear that you can't actually buy otherwise. Like you can buy Reginiers for a little while there, and so Purple Heart, you're able to buy them through Purple Heart.
I
Uh,
just don't like how they stitched their logo on some of the masks. Like my mask has a Purple Heart Armory logo, and I was like, I didn't.
yeah, they do have that branding issue, and to be fair, a lot of like their own Purple Heart stuff is other things like we branded. Talk about Subfin again. A lot of like the specific Purple Heart stuff is just we branded Subfin. Uh, but I guess the thing I'm trying to say right now is there's a couple brands that are really good. Spez is pretty good. You probably should get for, but also it's the in stock stuff. It's like the standard things you don't have to like customize, are A, cheaper, and B, like it's a great way to just get into the hobby for a couple $100. I
I
I,
was gonna say that. What do you think is the recommended budget for a full HEMA kit? I would say $1,400.
I was gonna say 700.
See, I feel like 700 though is like the cheap option. Like if you're on a budget,
That's
but I
fine.
would say if you want, if you have the budget capabilities and you want like really solid kit that like you can rely on and trust, $1,400 will give you an equipment kit that you basically can spar anything, and you'll be 100% safe.
I guess what I was trying to say earlier with the whole kit is like I think you should have two levels of kit, right? You should have a starter kit that this is what you start in, this is how you work, and as you learn the hobby, work on it. I think that's what you should do first, right? Like $700 is roughly like let's do like a $300 gamison, $120 mask, uh 250 300 dollar gloves, and that usually gets you into a good stance. You can borrow some forearm gears, you can do stuff like that. It allows you to get into the hobby, and then as you start like liking things, you can start buying more. uh, because that's basically what I've done now is like I have my new Spez AP Light Plus that I'm using, that I've upgraded. I have my Gaucher that upgraded. I have my mask that upgraded. Um, I think you start with this, and then you can build up to that $1,400.
Yeah, like you said, having multiple kits, I think, is a great advantage. I would say you should make a light kit and you should make a heavy kit because, like, I like longsword, so I made a longsword kit and I spent the money to get a really good solid longsword kit that I feel safe sparring in. But I also like to do foil and I like to do sports saber
I didn't actually know that.
and I like to do small sword. Yeah, I'm like on the two extremes. I like longsword and I like small sword. Like Uh, so like, but it's kind of frustrating doing like light weapons with so much equipment
I
on.
agree. I
So
agree.
yeah, so I bought stuff secondhand. Like I bought a gambeson secondhand, and I bought gloves secondhand. So like now I have a light and a heavy kit, and it's a huge advantage being able to switch between the two.
I think part of my thing is for them. It's This is a trend I've seen in HEMA. Is people start with heavy kits and then eventually work their way lighter, right? They get like like a heavy gambeson, and then over the years they start getting lighter and lighter. And I feel like it's not a bad way to go because you have it protected as a new person as you ease yourself into this combat sport. Being protected, having all this heavy gear, and as you figure out what you need and don't need, then you can start like dialing back. And like a heavy gambeson isn't, for the most part, it's the same price as a light gambeson that I've seen.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's why I like the AP Light Pro because it can be both. You can take your plates off and stuff like that. The AP Light Pro is just my favorite jacket.
It's a good
Uh,
jacket. I've been, you've sold me on it. I'm doing good.
yeah, I know some people like the. I know the sellsword jacket is really popular with people. I know like a handful of people who wear those.
Ah, yeah, I
I
fought
knew
someone against
someone.
it.
I knew someone. She had a custom print. Two people like this, and they both had like custom print sellsword gambesons that had like these really cool patterns on them. And I thought those were really cool. And those gambesons are cool because you have like the tunic style, so like you have that thigh protection there too. But I just really like the look and the function of the AP Light jacket.
I
It's by
actually,
far like my favorite HEMA jacket.
as a HEMA jacket, I prefer like a higher crop one that ends like above your, yeah, like above your hips. Um, for like a
Same.
sprawling jacket, it just feels more freedom.
Yeah, same.
Um, And then for my harness kit, I actually do like that lower one because man, the chainmail against your hips just helps more than you can ever think. But that's a different discussion. Um, I think that's one of the things as well. It's like that's our opinions, right? We've done this for so long that we know what we like and don't like, and I feel like getting things that not restrict you, but like get you more protective and knowing where you can drop things because you can always get rid of things. It's hard to get more things if that makes
And you
sense.
know what I think they should do at tournaments and conventions? I think these vendors should have like equipment that you can try on. Like if they're gonna sell
Oh,
equipment at an event, they should have like jackets you can try on so that you have that opportunity. And plus also, I had this idea for like an event, um, like buy sell trade events, like marketplace events where like a bunch of people get together and you can buy sell trade your HEMA equipment, but then also if you just want to spar or like be social, there's like sparring rings too.
the SCA
Uh,
does that.
yeah, I think that would be awesome too.
I
For
would love
community
that.
building and building like local marketplaces because like it is hard for some people to get things shipped over and then you have to wait a long time. So like it would be nice to be able to circulate gear locally through like events where you like if I if and then if I am building a second kit and uh I want to do it at a good price, I would love to go to these events and like find gear and buy it secondhand because I know there's people that are getting out of HEMA too and they want to get rid of their gear. Uh, so it would be an excellent way for them to pass that on and stuff like that.
I don't know how it's
Mm.
been for you, but like as a general rule, like it is so tough to find used HEMA gear for me.
It is hard. I mean, not really for me because like our group is a bit bigger and people come and go. So like uh, I've I bought basically my second kit secondhand, like for the most part. Like I got my gloves secondhand, I got my jacket secondhand, I got my new mask secondhand. So like you can get things secondhand from people, um, and they're usually willing to give you a good deal on it. Um, So I think that should be like a wider. We should try one of those.
I would be down. I would be down for that.
Yeah,
I want to make sure it's like legal since it's money like moving around. Um,
fair. That's fair.
I do not want to get in trouble for that. But like, I love that concept because again, it's a community and b like newer folks getting in could try picking up an extra glove or two.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, exactly. Um, I'm trying. I had something, but I forgot.
we would talk about Gambesons, about like what our favorite
Oh yeah.
is. So like the first
I
start
mean,
you
I
start.
always recommend people get the AP Lite. Like, it's. I mean, it's a good gambeson. You can use it for anything. I say go ahead and get the AP Lite Pro so that you get the extra pads, and then like it's customizable. So like, I know people like the officer jacket, which I think the officer jacket is like probably comparable to the AP Lite.
All the research I was
Um,
doing is it's like just under
just under. Okay. Well, I mean,
level
I
protection.
people do longsword in the officer jacket and they never complain about it. I think another
I
piece
know
of
a guy who
overlooked gear
fights
is
longsword in a Olympic fencing jacket.
that person is crazy. I'm sorry.
You've met him before. I'll tell you later.
Okay. Um. So, but as I was saying, like, um, another piece of overlooked equipment, which I actually plan on getting this myself for tournaments, is a plastron. Is another thing I see easily overlooked. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, that like that chest protection that goes under your jacket. I think like that can go a long way too for you know because yeah, like our swords, like you have 300 Newton rating, and like usually it's not that big of a deal, but like
The thing with
cuts,
the
I've
plastron, as I
taken
feel
cuts
like,
to the chest that, and I've still like I had more impact than I thought I was comfortable with.
because the issue with
So
the 350 newtons is like it's a whip and pierce protection, but like it doesn't do too much. It's the padding that protects against the impact force. And
yeah,
oh man, they're like yeah, people have broken ribs from like a structured thrust. I feel like that's what a
yeah,
plastron is good for. If you want to protect your ribs and your bones.
yeah. Um, Yeah, I once again I would you know I would say like sometimes I think it's funny because like I think man like I don't need to wear this gear because like I never get hurt, but then I have to always remember I'm probably not getting hurt there because I am wearing the protection. Like I'm definitely getting hit here, but I'm not feeling it because my equipment is working the way it should.
I always remember the
So like
specific.
yeah
It was my first Donnybrook tournament. I always remember it was the specific one. I'd be like, yeah, I'm doing good. I have padding. I'm not really feeling much. And then someone did like an underhanded. Sorry, no, it was a rising cut that hit underneath my bicep on the left side there. That is the first time I wanted to throw up doing HEMA.
yeah
And it was just like that one hit put everything in perspective of like, yeah, that's where I wear padding. Oh.
yeah yeah exactly. And I will say, tournament guys are doing a good job being strict about equipment. Um, they do a good job with gear checks, and I think their gear standards are appropriate for the event.
Yeah,
I will say there's this, and I actually plan on making a video about this. I I feel like there's this thing that happens with people psychologically where like they see me wearing more padding, and then they think, oh, okay, I can like hit him harder,
oh my
or
gosh,
like
yeah.
I can raise my force level because he's padded. But like because I'm first of all, just because I'm wearing padding doesn't mean I don't doesn't mean I want to do high intensity sparring, but also like I still feel like the shock, like the impact of these blows. Like yeah, they stop me from breaking my bones. I still feel them.
It still hurts. Uh,
Yeah, it's and then like I look at my jacket and there's just like massive gashes in like the shoulder pads and like the arm pads, and I'm just looking at them and I'm just like, if I wasn't wearing any this like padding, I couldn't even imagine what that impact would have caused. In fact, I think one of the best videos I think that have been released in like recent times for HEMA is the Sellsword Arts like crash dummy test with the longsword, and how they're doing like just these really small cuts, low impact, and yet they're still causing so much damage to the body, and that really puts things in perspective for me. It's like, maybe I don't need to spar at a high level of intensity to be martially valid.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of thing. That's the issue with gear, right? Is like the gear is for the most part when people make mistakes. Is for when the things of like the unintentional things happen. Because you and I can slow our sword strikes and actually hurt somebody. It's the fact when you either don't or when it's not to a sufficient level. Um,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Like it's. I've seen clubs have like an arms race, and I had this discussion with a couple Canadian friends. Of it's a level of it's an arms race of people hit hard, so you wear more padding. You wear more padding, so people hit harder, and then you get more padding. And then it's just an arms race. You just heavily pad it up, and you can't actually do a lot of things you were originally trying to do. Um,
Right.
HEMA is based off of the fence's skill of each other, of a trust between each other, and not being unga bunga and smacking each other as hard as they can.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? I see people who are perceived as high level fencing way at a way higher intensity than they should be.
I
I
also
see
have seen
more
this.
I see more excessive force issues with experienced people than non-experienced people.
Do you think it's because like no one like people stop telling them no, or do you think it's just like
I don't know because I don't fence at that skill level. Like I don't really know like what that level of play is like. But for me, like I remember when I first started getting into HEMA and I would watch videos like Federico, his sparring videos are he's like calm. It's like slower pace. The movements are more
it's very
like
technical?
precise, very technical, right? And I used to think, how is this high level? I was like, shouldn't you just be running in front of the guy and like, grabbing his sword and like flipping him around, slamming him, and then like half sword? Like, I thought high level sword fighting was like more intense. But then as I started getting better, I started to realize actually no, fencing is very subtle and it's very controlled. And they're so good at fencing that they can fence at that level of intensity that's like lower to our eyes, but actually it's high intensity to them because they're making the decision that like leads to that perfect like effortless cut. Like they're not using more energy than they should be. Like that they're that controlled and that skilled. Like they know
Which I
what
love
intensity
that.
to go at. But then like here, I see a lot of people who are perceived to be high skill, and they go full force to the point where like I don't even think it's safe.
There
Like
was one issue that so our buddy Dennis got hit at one of the tournaments by like a pretty high level guy, that's known in the region, and we were just like yeah, it was kind of discussion we had of like you should know better to not do excessive force like that.
yeah, an excessive force at tournaments is a huge issue. It's a huge issue.
Yeah, no, it really is. It really absolutely is. It's
But
crazy.
it's like it really in eliminations in my opinion. Because like pools doesn't really feel that intense. Like pools feels a lot more chill. But then like in elimination, like I see people in elimination matches and they're pretty much being unsafe with how they're fencing. But yet this is supposed to be like high skill level.
That's first off, that's I think you're right. Um, it's it's when people get that stress of like really wanting to win, they start taking more liberties. I want to say I think liberties is the right term. Um, not much to say
Yeah,
about
like they're
that.
just putting more will behind what they're doing. There's like more ego in it, like in their fencing style. Uh, on excessive force and on that topic, I think this is a good transition to the next topic. We were going to talk about gearless sparring.
Gearless
On
sparring.
the
Yeah, so we
opposite
talk about
end of yeah,
we talk about the gear you
on the
wanna
opposite
buy.
end of our previous conversation. Now we're going to talk about sparring with nothing,
Uh,
which is
this gets in. This
yeah,
get. Oof, this gets into. You and I talked about this the other day, but there was the video of the
yeah,
guy do. Oh gosh, yeah. He was up in arms about it right now. I think gearless
yeah.
spawning
So give
has a
me a
place.
refresher on that drama.
So first up, when we talk about gearless spawning, I think we need to separate like the different types. Um, we can do foam gearless spawning, spawning. We can do like feather, like steel feather gearless spawning, or we can do like semi-sharp sword gearless spawning.
Okay.
Uh, to get out of the way, the last one of the sharp steel one, in my opinion, should something that is either like never done or is very rarely done under specific circumstances, of with both participants knowing that there's a high chance of injury. Uh, what
Yeah.
what happened? So what happened recently is I forget if it was an old video or recent video, but it was a couple of guys who had a semi sharpened feathers. That were like they were trying to be based off of historical examples. They had face masks and they had bare leather like leather gloves or something like that.
Like
And
safety goggles,
see,
basically.
it was basically safety goggles that also protected their nose. Um, and they basically did gearless spawning, contact spawning, where they're doing a specific rule set of like first blood from the head. Um,
Which I think is crazy.
I think it's crazy, but like I think so. A couple of videos, people did videos on it. I think Matthew Jensen had a decent take on it. Of like, this is still dangerous. You can still learn something from this, and like the way they were fighting, the way the controlled were doing it, it was it was acceptable enough that it worked in its context. But
Yeah, like the guy I saw only like clips of that video, but yeah, in the actual sparring video, the two guys looked like they were competent in their fencing style. They didn't look like they were brand new. They didn't look like they didn't know what they were doing. Like you could tell that like they were experienced fencers. Uh, so you know they were capable of that level of sparring. But I will say, I have to ask this question, and this is a philosophical question. But like when it comes to this level of risk, what is the actual goal of this sparring match? Like what is it that these fencers are hoping to learn or to gain by sparring with sharp swords, no gear, and on top of that, they want to score a first blood to the head. Like what they want to like inflict actual like physical trauma on them on each
I
other.
agree. I think
What is the goal? What
I
are you hoping to achieve?
that's a hugely valid question. I feel like a lot of people need to answer like why they do HEMA, why they do these for like certain reasons. Um, Again, I'm not vouching for these guys. I am not like saying everyone should do this. In fact, I'm never gonna do this. I'm never gonna have any of my guys do it. Uh, but it's the way I understand it. How they're going for is they're going off of a historical rule set of like this is how they would have done it in the past, and so recreating what they did in the past of of seeing like their thought processes behind it.
So
I,
so it's nice because this goes into the other big like question when it comes to our sparring. When it comes to recreation, I hear that word a lot. We're being historically accurate. But accurately portraying what exactly? Are we portraying a duel to the death or are we recreating how they sparred? Because some manuals are manuals on sparring. Like it's the sparring drills. Like other manuals are made specifically for judicial combat, right? And it reflects that level of intensity. So when
there
you're
was a
fencing,
fantastic video I was
yeah,
watching from Virtual Effectual, uh, and it was about a mess of fights, and it was he was talking about it with other things. a lot of like the mesa fights you find in history, it was things like if you killed somebody or if you did enough damage, you were held legally responsible and could be like in huge legal danger. And so a lot of what they were talking about was the way you would fight would be to make it so you wouldn't get wouldn't be imprisoned as you were fighting. And that was a fascinating thing to think about is like fighting and dueling in these rule sets of like with appropriate force, I want to say.
Yeah. Well, with me, I try to recreate the actual like barring system. I mean, judicial. It's cool that like, hey, historically, yes, there were judicial duels, and then these people were trained in these systems. But like a lot of the manuals I look at are really specifically for training, like not necessarily. I mean, training for the duel, like training for the battle. It's not necessarily the the battle itself. So for me, and I think it's much safer, and I think your fencing is much more safer and much more technical when you're thinking about it in terms of what your defensive capability, like not just your offensive capability, but what are you able to defend? And then second of all, um, being able to spar in a way that has that intensity to where like you can get better with your training and with your reflexes without hurting yourself or the other person.
I think it's incredibly valid. Of like, because at the end of the day, we're
So
all friends.
yeah,
We all want to go home at the end of the day.
so fencing the first blood to me is like diametrically opposed to like my personal like fencing philosophy where like I'm just recreating the training drill of sparring. Like I'm not trying to pretend like I'm in a duel.
Um, I think yeah, especially with that going. I think it's valid in certain circumstances, but I also feel like you are correct in the sense of we want creating the art, we creating like the actual like training aspect of it is super important. And if you're trying to get out of it like how to actually fight with a sword, fighting geared is probably the best way to do it because you're able to simulate proper movements, proper actions without fear of actually injuring somebody.
Yeah, and that's honestly that's the thing that we have that the people in the past didn't is that we have that level of protective equipment to where we can spar at these like higher intensities.
They
Uh,
absolutely would have
but
loved
yeah,
using like Hema gear to train
yeah.
and spar.
Um, but funnily enough, and this is something that I've been like experimenting with. Uh, this was brought up by the New Jersey HEMA Association. Um, there are like psychological differences to sparring in gear and without gear. Like for example, a lot of the times your senses are dulled when you're wearing all that gear, so like you don't react to things as quickly, which can first of all it leaves openings for hits, but also like it kind of builds that latency with like your responses to things. Like you're much more responsive without gear, but also at the same time, when you spar without gear, you have to spar at a much lesser intensity to keep things safe. And a lot of things have to be telegraphed. Like for example, you can't really thrust in gearless sparring, but you can like present a point, and then like your opponent can see, okay, yeah, if he would have continued with that movement, then I would have lost. So we can reset. And that's cool. Some sometimes in a really paradoxical way because I like to do gearless sparring like at a very very low intensity. Something about that paradoxically makes me feel more safe because we're not trying to get full contact hits on each other. We're not doing these thrusting attacks. We're just like flowing and like dancing and playing around. Uh,
There was an article I was
and
reading. It
yeah,
I think you might actually send it to me. But like a lot of the ways you were doing this, of like even if you were to get a strike, uh, slowing yourself down so the other person is able to block uh, was one of the things they would do, and that was such an interesting thing of like you're keeping the flow going, keeping the art going, rather than trying to get an arbitrary amount of points or hits.
Yeah, and it's not as competitive because you're not trying to you're not winning. You don't win by like getting a full contact hit on the person, nor are they like trying like incredibly hard to resist you. Like we're just seeing how our instincts are, and it's it's interesting, but you can't do that with everybody because some people they're wired like for that competitive type of like sparring.
Hmm.
Like they can't guerrilla spar because they can't get into the mindset that is required to do it safely. And there are times where like I've preferred low intensity guerrilla sparring with like someone who is really solid. I prefer that over to like fencing somebody who's unsafe in armor. Uh, so it doesn't happen all the time, but it is a really nice learning experience to like have that opportunity to guerrilla spar with people that you can trust. Um, but once again, there has to be that mutual trust and mutual understanding of like where the boundaries are and what we're comfortable with. But like, I don't see why it's worth the hassle. Like, okay, we're fencing the first blood, and you split my head open. Now I'm bleeding. It's like, why
Yay!
did I? Yeah, what was the purpose of that? Like, there's, I don't know how that could be a learning. I mean, I can like on paper, like, yeah, I guess I can understand why, but at the same time, you could have learned that same lesson and not had your head, you know.
I agree. I agree with that. I do agree with that.
Yeah, yeah. Because I hear a lot of horror stories about Hema, and I've seen some bad injuries also. Uh, but like people getting their fingers smashed or swords going in places they're not supposed to be going. Um, it's like if you would have just worn the proper equipment, if you would have just sparred safe, then this then you would have not have needed to get this. You would have not have gotten this injury. So for me, like I'm always on top. I always try to wear the best equipment that I can, that I trust to like protect me, and like I expect that same standard from the people that I fence with. Uh, because yeah, I don't want to go home with a broken hand. I don't want to, go home with a broken tooth. I want to go home, hurt at all.
You
I
want to
don't want
go
to go
home with
home
a
with a
cool
headache.
YouTube video, you want to go home with a cool thing,
Yeah,
and
like, and that's the other thing too is like Hema, online has this very like intense sort of attitude that like, yes, we are like the living sword fighters of like the 21st century, and this is like I go hard for this. Also, it's like there are people who come out here and they're just trying to enjoy their free time. Like they're like they're in it purely for the fun.
well, it's one of the
And
first things I
that
ask
we need
folks
more
whenever
of
they
that
join.
representation too.
Whenever I ask someone when they join the club, it's like, what are you here for? Are you here for the history? Are you here to for the sport and exercise? Or are you here to to have fun? And like it can be a mix of all three in some level of some sort. But that's one of the most important things is like the discussion people had is like, why are all these fat people practicing humor in the park? Why are these why are these unskilled people showing YouTube videos? And it's such a fascinating thing to think of um kind of putting this like Hema has to be this big over the top way to do things. It doesn't have to.
Yeah, yeah. And I
I
think that's just like the curse of social media entirely is that like people on social media go to like the full extremes of things, and then like it can paint this image for like the rest of the community. But yeah, like at the end of the day, we're here to have fun. Like it should be a fun activity. It's a hobby thing. Like it is a sport. It's cool. If you're interested in like that lifestyle, then that's also a great thing for you. But also, like things like barbecues and like, just I think we could use that more in the HEMA community of people just having fun with it. Like not everything has to be this like super ego-driven, competitive, like hardcore experience. It could just be, hey, we're just fooling around over the weekend. And that's what I love that part about HEMA too.
And I think just a quick little discussion right there of like that kind of mindset also allows such a wide range of like either both like weapons people use, because you're not forced into one like tournament of setting of like just longsword, just saber, just whatever. But also like around the community as well. With like you can experiment, you can start doing things of like fighting, saber versus longsword or backsword versus rapier. It allows more
Yeah.
shenanigans to happen.
Actually, I want to get into pole weapons fencing for that reason.
It's a lot of
I
fun.
want to get a pole hammer and train with that.
I'll send you some links to some really cool stuff that I've seen. But
All right.
we've definitely had quite a long discussion about like a lot of random things. But I think to put it all together, wear the proper equipment, don't get hurt, and if you're not sure what equipment to buy, always just check with your club first. I think is the thing.
Yeah. And
Um,
also just be more friendly with people that you fence.
absolutely. At the end of the
Get
day,
feedback.
I think be more friendly, and,
Yeah.
and just think about like at the end of the day, of like when you come home from a tournament, are you gonna have friends or are you gonna have a trophy? You know,
Yeah.
some
Exactly.
a piece of worthless metal or people you can trust and hang out with.
Well said.
I think we ended up. Thank you all so much for listening to this podcast, and hopefully we get our friend Dennis back here for next time as well.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
All right.
Bye.
You too. Bye.